February 1988, Cedars Sinai Medical Center, Los Angeles, room 814. Michael Torres lay dying at 28 years old. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors had given him weeks, maybe days. His mother sat beside his bed, helpless, watching her son fade. Mike had one request, one final wish, before he died. He wanted to meet Charles Bronson, not because Bronson was famous, because Bronson's films had given Michael something to hold onto during the worst years of his life. His mother made a call she knew was hopeless. She reached Bronson's publicist, explained the situation, asked if there was any way, any possibility. She expected a polite no, maybe an autograph photo, if she was lucky. What she got instead was Charles Bronson showing up at the hospital 3 hours later. And what happened over the next week would become a story the nurses on that floor would tell for the rest of their lives. This is about what happened when a dying man met his hero and discovered his hero was even better than the movies. Michael Torres grew up in East Los Angeles, the only child of Maria Torres, a single mother who worked 2 jobs to keep them housed and fed. Life was hard. Money is always scarce. But Maria made sure Michael had one luxury, movies. For a weekend, if she could afford it, she would take Michael to the cheap theater on Whittier Boulevard. $2 for a double feature. For a few hours, they could escape their struggles and watch heroes save the day. Michael's favorite actor was Charles Bronson. Not the most obvious choice for a kid growing up in the 1970s and 80s. Most of Michael's friends liked Star Wars or Superman, but Michael connected with Bronson's characters differently. They were not invincible superheroes. They were regular men who had been hurt, who would survive terrible things, who kept going anyway. Michael, who was bullied at school for being small and shy, who watched his mother work herself exhausted, who knew what it felt like to be powerless, saw himself in those characters. If they could survive, maybe he could too. In 1986, when Michael was 26, he started experiencing severe stomach pain and weight loss. By the time he saw a doctor, the cancer was already advanced. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4, inoperable. The oncologist gave him months, maybe a year with aggressive treatment. Michael chose treatment, not because he believed he would survive, but because his mother needed hope. He endured chemotherapy, irradiation, experimental drugs. The treatments made him violently ill, destroyed his appetite, turned his skin gray, but he endured. During treatment, Michael watched Charles Bronson films. His mother bought a VCR and rented every Bronson movie she could find. Death Wish, The Mechanic, Hard Times, Mr. Majestic. Michael watched them over and over. The films became a ritual, a way to process pain. When chemotherapy made him too sick to move, he would lie on the couch and watch Paul Kersey fight back against injustice. When radiation burns made his skin feel like fire, he would watch Bronson's characters endure worse and keep going. The films did not cure his cancer, but they gave him a framework for survival. Keep fighting. Do not give up. Survive one more day. By November 1988, Michael's body was giving up. The cancer had spread throughout his abdomen. He was in constant pain. Despite maximum morphine dosing, he would lost 60 pounds. His skin had yellowed from liver failure. The doctors told Maria it was time to prepare. Days, not weeks. Maria moved Michael to Cedars Sinai for end-of-life care, better pain management, private room, somewhere he could die with dignity. One evening, Maria sat beside Michael's bed, watching him sleep. She thought about all the things she would wanted to give him that poverty prevented: college, travel, a wedding, grandchildren. None of it would happen. Her son would die at 28, having experienced so little joy. She started crying, trying to stay quiet, but Michael woke up. "Mom, do not cry. I am sorry, mijo. I am trying to be strong." Michael took her hand weakly. "You have been strong my whole life. You are allowed to cry." They sat in silence. Then Michael said something that broke Maria's heart. "I know this is stupid, but I wish I could meet Charles Bronson, just once, just to say thank you for making those movies. They helped me more than he will ever know." Maria nodded, not trusting her voice. After Michael fell back asleep, she made a decision. Her son was dying. He would ask for almost nothing in his life. This one thing, this impossible thing, she would try to make happen. The next morning, Maria called information and got the number for a talent agency. She explained she was looking for Charles Bronson's representation. After being transferred multiple times, she reached someone named David Keller, who identified himself as Bronson's publicist. Maria explained her situation. Her son was dying. He loved Charles Bronson's films. Would it be possible for Mr. Bronson to send an autographed photo, maybe a brief letter? Anything Michael could have before he died? David Keller listened. He would received hundreds of similar requests over the years. Usually, he would send a signed headshot with a standard message. But something about Maria's voice, the desperate love in it, the acceptance that she was asking for the impossible, moved him. "Let me see what I can do. No promises, but let me make a call." 2 hours later, David called Maria back. "Mrs. Torres, what is the hospital and room number? Mr. Bronson would like to visit your son this afternoon." Maria thought she would misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "Charles Bronson would like to visit Michael. He is available this afternoon around 3 p.m. Is that acceptable?" Maria started crying so hard she could not speak. Finally, she managed, Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you so much." She hung up and looked at Michael, who was awake and had heard her side of the conversation. "Mom, what is happening?" "Charles Bronson's coming to see you. Today, in 3 hours." Michael did not believe it. That is not possible. People like him do not visit dying fans in hospitals. "Mijo, I am telling you." His publicist called back. "He is coming at 3 p.m. Michael looked at the clock. It was noon. 3 hours. He tried to sit up straighter, winced from the pain. "I look terrible. I'm in a hospital gown." You look beautiful to me, and if Charles Bronson is the man I think he is, he will not care what you are wearing." At 2:45 p.m., Maria nervously straightened Michael's blankets for the 10th time. Michael had barely said a word for an hour, too overwhelmed to speak. At 2:58 p.m., there was a knock on the door. Maria opened it. Standing in the hallway was Charles Bronson, 67 years old, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt. No entourage, no cameras, just him. "Mrs. Torres, I am Charles Bronson. May I come in?" Maria stepped aside wordlessly. Charles walked into the room and approached Michael's bed. Michael stared, tears already streaming down his face. Charles extended his hand. "Michael, I hear you wanted to meet me." Michael took his hand weakly. "Mr. Bronson, I cannot believe you are here. Call me Charles, and I am glad I could come. Your mother told me you have been through a rough time." Charles pulled a chair next to Michael's bed and sat down. For the next 3 hours they talked, not about cancer or dying, about movies, about life, about everything. Charles asked Michael about his favorite films. Michael, voice trembling with emotion, talked about watching The Mechanic during his first round of chemo. "The way Arthur Bishop stays calm, no matter what, that is what got me through. I would be throwing up from the drugs, and I would think, Arthur Bishop would not quit, so I will not either." Charles listened intently. "You know Arthur Bishop is just a character, But what you did, going through chemotherapy, fighting cancer, that took real courage. The kind I just pretend to have on screen. Michael shook his head. You are wrong. Your characters taught me what courage looked like. Before I got sick, I was scared of everything. Scared of being hurt, scared of fighting back, scared to live. Your movies showed me that courage is not being afraid. It is being afraid and doing it anyway. Charles was quiet for a moment, visibly moved. Then he told Michael something he rarely shared. When I was 10 years old, my father died. We were desperately poor. I had to work in the coal mines to help feed my family. I was terrified every day, terrified of the darkness, of the cave-ins, of dying like my father did. But I went down into those mines every morning because my family needed me to. That is what you did. You faced something terrifying every day because your mother needed you to. That is the same courage. They talked about Michael's mother, and Charles praised her strength. She never gave up on you, never stopped fighting. That is real love. Michael smiled. She is the hero. I just showed up. Maria, listening from the corner, was crying quietly. This man, this famous actor, was treating her dying son not as a charity case, but as an equal, as someone worthy of respect. At 6 p.m., a nurse came to deliver Michael's medication. She stopped in the doorway, recognizing Charles Bronson, and started to apologize for interrupting. Charles waved her in. Please, do not let me get in the way of Michael's care. The nurse administered the medication, trying to process that Charles Bronson was sitting in her patient's room. After she left, Michael was getting visibly tired. Charles stood to go. I should let you rest. Thank you for coming, Michael said, voice breaking. This was the best day of my life. Charles looked at Maria, then back at Michael. Can I come back tomorrow, if you are up for it? Michael's eyes widened. You would come back? If you will have me, I would like to hear more of your story. Yes, please, yes. Charles returned the next day at 2 p.m. This time he brought photos from his films and shared stories about the making of them. He told Michael about working with Sergio Leone, about the cold European sets, about learning to act with minimal dialogue. Michael, even weakened by pain, was engaged, asking questions, laughing at Charles's anecdotes. The nurses started finding excuses to walk past room 814, hoping to glimpse Charles Bronson sitting beside a dying patient, treating him like an old friend. On the third visit, Charles brought something unexpected, a stack of letters. These are from fans over the years, people who wrote to tell me my films helped them through hard times. I kept them because they reminded me why I do this work. I want you to have them, so you know you are not alone in finding strength in these stories. Michael, too weak now to hold the letters himself, had Maria read them aloud. Stories from veterans with PTSD, from abuse survivors, from people who had lost everything and found hope in Bronson's characters. Michael cried listening to them, realizing he was part of a community of survivors. That evening, after Charles left, Michael told his mother, I am ready now. I have been so afraid of dying. But Charles showed me that my life mattered, that the fight meant something, even if I do not win. I can let go now. Maria held her son's hand. You do not have to let go yet, Mio. I know. But when it is time, I will not be afraid. Charles visited a total of 3 times over 1 week, each visit shorter than the last as Michael's strength faded. On the final visit, Michael could barely speak. Charles sat beside the bed and just talked, telling stories, sharing memories, filling the silence with warmth. When it was time to leave, Charles leaned close and said, You fought with everything you had, Michael. Your mother is so proud of you. I am proud of you. Rest now. You have earned it. Michael died 2 days later, November 18th, 1988. Maria was holding his hand. She said he went peacefully, not struggling, not afraid. The nurses told her that in all their years of hospice care, they would never seen anything like what Charles Bronson had done. He gave your son dignity. He gave him joy. He showed him his life had meaning. That is the greatest gift anyone can give a dying person. Charles Bronson attended Michael's funeral, small gathering, mostly family, and a few friends. Charles sat in the back, did not speak to anyone except Maria. He hugged her before leaving and pressed an envelope into her hands. Open this later. Inside was a check for $10,000 and a note for funeral expenses and anything else you need. Michael was a brave man. It was an honor to know him. Charles. Disclaimer: this story is fictionalized to honor the spirit of Charles Bronson's documented kindness to fans. While Bronson was known for private acts of generosity, this specific encounter is dramatized.